What's up, my FY Fly folks out there? How y'all doing? I hope y'all doing all right. Welcome to the FY Fly podcast. My name is Hassan Thomas, aka the kid that did and the man that can, baby. And today, we're gonna be chopping it up with business mindset coach, serial entrepreneur, and one half of the Sunday Stacks podcast, Mr. Michael Stewart-Isaacs, baby. How are you? How are you?
Let's go. I love that introduction. I need that more often everywhere I go. I'm doing well today. I'm doing well, son. I'm enjoying the day as always, taking it one day at a time, but really excited to be here with you and your audience.
Yes, sir, man. I'm happy we could finally get you on here. We're going to have a great time. We met, 2021 at the first Invest Fest?
First
ever?
Invest Fest. Yes. First Invest Fest. That was it. And I mean, wow, what an experience. What a time to just plant seeds, particularly after a pandemic, kind of not knowing what was going to come next, but definitely being focused on meeting phenomenal people like yourself. And look at where we at today.
Yes, sir, man. Yes, sir. So shout out EYL, shout out Invest Fest. But now we are here on FY Fly. And What we like to do, we like to skip the fluff and get right into the good stuff. How that sound?
That sounds good. I'm ready.
All right, Beth. So I want to start off because, as you mentioned, 26 years of entrepreneurship, been doing this for a minute, man. So kind of start us off there. Like, were you always entrepreneurial mind? Did you always have the entrepreneurial mindset? Or was there like a certain turning point in your life where you were like, okay, now it's time for me to take my own business, my own ideas seriously?
I have two immigrant parents. My mother's from Sierra Leone, West Africa. My father's Jamaican. And we all know the stories you hear with Jamaicans in regards to like having 3 jobs and kind of always kind of being motivated. So I kind of had that spirit of seeing a go-getting spirit from that side of my family, particularly in New York. And then just really kind of always being grateful of knowing what my parents, particularly my mother, had to go through to leave Africa and come to America and really kind of find her way. And she went from, doing school in the South in college as a person that was kind of adapting to the new culture to ascending to, great opportunities in New York, which, just kind of watching those narratives really let me know that you really can make anything out of yourself in America. And so that's kind of what inspired me, a lot of their grit. My father used to bet on horses too. So I always tell people, like, I was always around the different horse rings, watching the horse races. And so I always know how to put a good bet down, anything I do.
I love it, man. I love it. So you talk about betting. Let's talk about, when did you first bet on yourself? When did you first start your, you said you had different hustles as a child coming up. But when would you say you started your first real money-making business? Like, when was that?
Okay, so a lot of hustles as a kid. I would say my first money-making business, let me be honest with you, for all of my young kids out there, was candy. I was selling candy. I was one of the best candy seller. It wasn't, they have Boy Scouts, Girl Scout cookies and all those kind of things. I made my own little, my own personal charity of self. I would sell the candy and build. And that salesmanship of really understanding what people wanted and needed was my first level. And then I was also really, really into the hip hop culture. I would make like hip hop calendars with like all the different hip hop stars. I would get a printer and print them out and try to make it look real nice. And I would sell with all your favorite rappers and stuff.
That's that inventor in you, yep.
Just always finding a way to make money. So those made me a lot of money, believe it or not, as a kid. And then ultimately, I used to do music promotions. Didn't make a lot of money in music promotions, but had a lot of, as we would call today, clout, because I was around some of people's favorite up-and-coming artists and so forth. But then I rolled that into clothing and T-shirts. And that's where I always make my money. To this day, since I was a kid till now, I still make money selling T-shirts. I'll always sell a T-shirt. I tell people I'll never go broke. You give me $20, I'll take it, buy 4 T-shirts, sell it back, you build it up, and then keep on expanding. That's kind of my main business. Even with everything I own today, I always make sure that T-shirts are a part of the empire.
I love it. So did you have to go to school for the music promotion, for the entrepreneurship, or did you learn more from like experiences? And I'm asking this because there's a real big debate around, okay, do we need to go to school? Is the education required? Is the experience more important? So I want to figure out, what did you do? And then give some advice for the young folks listening on which one you believe is most important.
I love the question. And I think this is something that I don't think it's either or. I think everything in life does come down to experiences, and our experiences shape our beliefs in oneself. And I
Uh-huh.
think when it comes to education, there are levels of formal education and socializing that are important to what you will end up seeing within the business networking world. I always joke and say it's always high school, right? It's always a
Mm-hmm.
freshman, a sophomore, a junior, and a senior in any dynamic that you're in regards to when
Mm-hmm.
people talk about level up. That's what you got to look at in regards to most spaces you're in.
That's
So because
facts.
most of us are conditioned that way, even when you get into corporate networking or get into the levels that I've been able to get into today, you still see that freshman, sophomore, junior,
Mm-hmm.
and seniortizing of situations. And then the next level,
Yeah.
kind of evolves in that maturation. So I think, education is always a part of the equation, but
Mm-hmm.
experiences trump everything, right? The more you put yourself out there to do public speaking, the more you put yourself out there to be a part of, be helpful with events, be
Yeah.
someone who's willing to volunteer. All those skill sets will transition to things that one day you may start doing for free, but one day they'll turn into ways that you can monetize because now you've gained the skill sets and the experiences
Mm-hmm.
that will allow for you to be truly successful in how you ascend.
Got you. Got you. No, that's great game right there because I feel like with us being so young, we need to try everything.
Mm-hmm.
Try it out, and then whatever works for you, whatever comes a little bit natural,
Uh-huh.
then double down on that aspect of what you just tried.
That's
you know
it.
and,
And
and then if you do something and it doesn't work, and okay, that's fine. We tried it, it didn't work for us. That's not naturally crafted for us from God. That's not our path.
that's
That's
it.
cool. Try
That's it.
something else. It worked naturally, double down on that thing.
That's it.
So for you personally, what was it that got you to your next level? Was it the education? Was the experiences? Like, if you could look back, what was your true defining moment? Let's say 20s, early teen, not early teenager, but early adulthood. What was like your true defining moment that kind of put you on this path that you're on today?
I was faced with a time in eighth grade where I was told by someone I was never going to be anything. And
Mm,
that hit me at a certain core that made me have to realize why this person was saying it to me. And it started a journey of self-actualization that I applied to my entrepreneurship journey. So
mm-hmm.
that was how the early core of it started. Then the
Yeah.
opportunities and the different people I started getting exposed to showed me their path, which kind of gave me a blueprint, excuse the pun, but of ways to follow to really
Mm-hmm.
see what was possible. I've been fortunate to then in that course be discipled and find mentorship. But then I still had
Yeah.
adversities and over challenges. So I told you I had a person in my life that was taken away, unfortunately, due to violence in communities and all these different things that were going on. Then I was sued. And that in itself, all these things that were happening to me, I didn't realize they were happening for me, where God
Mm-hmm.
was essentially setting me up to understand what it really was, the full price that you have to pay for the
Yeah.
successes that you want to see and the ability to be able to have the strength and wherewithal to hold it. So
Mm-hmm.
all of these different stages of my life, there was a clear turning point that gave me the strength as a leader to really
Got you.
push what I was going to build to really start getting better results. Because once you go through great adversity or you're told that you're never going to be anything, when you even just try and attempt, you're already beating back the naysayers. You're
Mm,
already beating back the no's, as they say, the
yeah.
haters out there. So stay encouraged. And that's all of those things. When people told me I couldn't, when things were coming at me, I just never quit. I stayed motivated. And those are the turning points that led me to this greater successes I see today.
Mm-hmm. No, I love that, man. And for you, were you always an entrepreneur? Did you ever work a 9 to 5, or you've always been on the 9 to 5? I mean, you've always been on the entrepreneurship wave.
No, I would love to say that was true. I wish I could say it was just like, I gritted it out and made it through. But no, just like everyone, I had to deal with the realities of the economy, the realities
Mm-hmm.
of the world and the market. Doing this over several decades, you start to see, I'm a father, and that's the first job I hold, right? So I
Yeah.
always have to put myself in a position to feed and provide for my children, for my
Mm-hmm.
wife and my family. So I'm very thoughtful in that regards. But honestly, as an entrepreneur, I was kind of young hip hop, kind of edgy. I have an organization called Hip Hop Wall Street, so I was like making that transition from that level of party style
Yeah.
nightclubs and those things into the corporate spaces. And at that time, it was very hard to find myself in those spaces, but I
Mm-hmm.
had to, kind of adapt and still not lose who I am in authenticity, but at the same time, show how my flavor and the things that I offered can work. So part of my corporate career, I was able to work for banking, which I feel
Mm-hmm.
like was a good move in my life because I understood the financial systems, how
Yeah.
money and the economy actually works. So I don't have disillusions that some other entrepreneurs may have in regards to what their business should be doing. Being a
Mm-hmm.
banker had taught me a lot in regards to understanding how financial cycles and systems and the Federal Reserves and all those things work in regards to giving us this privilege of
Mm-hmm.
capitalism in regards to how we structure ourselves, right? And I don't want any of us to take that for granted. Capitalism is a privilege, but at the
Yeah.
same time, capitalism must care. And I think that's the difference in our generation is that we want to see good come out of the work or the
Mm-hmm.
businesses that we foster. Though we want to find, financial rewards to live a lifestyle, we still want to make sure that there's a benefit for society and the greater good. So I think
100%.
that's something that I've been able to kind of learn on this journey, to really kind of maturate it all.
Capitalism must care. I like
Yeah.
that. I like that. But when you were talking, you were alluding to something and you were saying that you went from hip hop Wall Street to actual Wall Street,
Wall Street,
basically.
right? Yeah, exactly.
And you were saying that you were having a little bit of trouble in the beginning, kind of separating the hip hop from the Wall Street. So I
Yes.
think that's very big for a lot of people, especially for people that look like us.
Yes.
Let's dive into that a little bit
Okay.
more. Let's dig a little bit deeper. How did you transition into Wall Street by still keeping your hip hop flavor, by still keeping that? How did you adapt? How did you transition to that? What are some tips for that? Because I feel like a lot of people are going through that right now. So let's talk about that a little bit.
That's a great question. And I want to tie it into one of our earlier concepts where we were looking at how do I keep my 9 to 5, right? I believe you can have the 9 to 5 if possible, if you have a good job, good
Mm-hmm.
benefits, that's an income. And then, you look at building a business and you create a system and a process, like you were
Mm-hmm.
saying earlier, that if you weren't there, a manager could come in and run that same system process and you can maintain ownership. But then you get into this next dynamic of Wall Street and those levels of networks. And then I
Mm-hmm.
started to learn how to decode these things through corporate practices. Like I said, I worked as a banker, then I got into media, working for a national media organization. So I got to cut my teeth. I seen the political side because it was during the
Mm-hmm.
time Obama was running in '08. So, I'm
Okay.
kind of, as when you get older, you say, yeah, I'm aging myself now. But I was able to witness a lot of these things and at a high level of experiences and watch the transition of social media kind of
Mm-hmm.
galvanize that. And so with all of that, that's where the transition started becoming easier because of Obama had flair to him that he was bringing a little bit of that culture every day
Gotcha.
through the mainstream, through the social media platforms that weren't as, adaptable as we are today to them. Back
Mm-hmm.
then, they were still new. So one being someone who was involved in media, then eventually into technology, all of my corporate experiences kind of driven me to show people the new technologies and how to adapt to them, which at the same time, the music, our
Mm-hmm.
culture was fueling that pace of the culture. So I didn't have to lose myself and my authenticity, and
Yeah.
people preferred me to be myself than trying to act as if I went to Wharton Business School or something like that, right? They wanted
Uh-huh.
to know that this, School of Hard Knocks actually has real merit to it and it can
Mm-hmm.
transition, corporate needs. And they understand too that there are still the procedures and practical things you have to know because corporations have to adhere to government, right? So there's
Mm-hmm.
regulations and compliances that they have to have from a tax standpoint that sometimes you have to be in a way that, yes, we have new ideas and new marketing concepts and all these different things, but
Yeah.
people got to be careful not to mess up the bread and butter brands and all these other things. So I take my corporate relationships very serious because of
Mm-hmm.
that understanding that they want me to be authentically me, but at the same time, I have to be respectful to understand what they're trying to achieve to transition to their concepts, their products to a new audience that may
Mm-hmm.
look like me. And that sometimes is the great value that I bring to the table. But at the same time, showing them how our culture has transcended all cultures and there's a greater language of youth that comes with this culture. And that's something that I think we all have been able to lock. And I'm fortunate to be a part of that generation that was able to create the translation that was needed.
Man, now you just got questions jumping off my head, man.
Oh, man.
So how do you feel about corporations, companies hitting us up during Black History Month to, like you mentioned, kind of facilitate and sell those products to our audience, to our people? How do you feel about that? Because on one end, yes, we are the people to represent for our people. Two, yes, those specific Heritage Month checks are heftier than regular checks.
Right.
So like just being complete transparent, how do you feel about that? Is that something that you stray away from just because you feel like they're only reaching out for that certain message? Are you cool with that? How do you feel about it?
This is a great question, and that really kind of touches on the work of Mosaic today. So with my company, I have a lot of octopus tentacles of organization, and particularly our I Am Brilliant. Part of what we focus is on working with policy and policy makers and really trying to push the narrative for not only just entrepreneurship rights, but community rights in general. And what we're communicating is that there's kind of a rigged game out here, right? There are certain set asides and other things that are locked in that are set aside to kind of check a box. You know, we talk about DEI and all these other spaces that people have been attacking, but there's a checkbox essentially on us as a people, and we're almost capped at a certain point too. Two things are happening. We're not even getting close to what the cap's supposed to be. And at the same time, they're overqualifying us, meaning we have to do all these hoop jumpings to get to certain dollars that are sitting there supposedly waiting for us, but they don't want to say that you're qualified enough. So it's like sometimes it's really difficult when you're in these spaces to capture the dollars that are rightfully yours. But at the same time, you know, to your point, they'll use us at checkbox times for Black History Months or, you know, other celebrations. Even Juneteenth is the new one out here, right? They'll find ways to, you know, kind of pacify saying that you work with. I think part of what we have to do as a culture is work on what we consider, what I call brilliance, but also this excellence, right? Best in class, right? Making products and services that are better, that come out the best, that feels the best, to be the best. You get what I'm saying? Like, I think that's something that I think as a culture and a community, we're starting to rebrand ourselves as top in class. And I think that's part of that really a master quality, right? That RAM, really a master. Like you got to be a master at what you say you are, and then no one will question you, you know? And, you know, so I think that's part of the growth opportunities that we have to see ourselves. And then, you know, when we talk about Black and brown ties, I love my Indians, right? I'm making that declaration here, like Black and brown ties. We got to bring them into that Black and brown ties too, because they're doing so many great things in newer technologies and emerging technologies, cybersecurity, all these different spaces. I touch all of these things, and I bring our people in our community from the continent here in the U.S. We're bringing the diaspora together, but we're also absorbing ourselves to other diaspora cultures that are adjacent to what we could build together and really thrive, you know?
Man, you were on one. Now you got me on one.
That's it, man. What we do. What it's called? I Am Brilliant, you know?
Come on.
This is
Now
it, you know?
you got my brain rattling, man. So you mentioned there that we have to put out the best. We have to market the best. The product has to be the best. And you said when you say that you're the best, your product has to match it up. So where's the balance of being humble, being modest, compared to, okay, my product is the best and I have to market it and value it? Because some people don't post on social media as much as they should be because they're still in the humble and modest, you know, mindset. But as far as business and entrepreneurship, where is that balance of promoting your product or your service compared to being the humble person that you may be?
I love it. I have a concept for this. This is my life philosophy book coming soon. That's for my mother right there, because she always says you got to write a book with all these ideas. But for years, I have this concept called entrepropaganda, right? And it's entrepreneurship propaganda, right? how as an
I like that.
entrepreneur do I really propagate? So when you're an entrepreneur and you're building a business, I don't care if it's a lawn care service or you're trying to build a media agency, you
Mm-hmm.
have to have this spirit that you're running for an election, right? And the difference is
Yeah.
when you're running for this election and you're trying to make sure that people vote for you, you don't, I know people always talk about competition, but the beauty of capitalism is you're always going to find the person who wants to be in business with you. You're not going to
Mm-hmm.
take anyone else's business that is meant for them. You're only going to find the business that's meant for you. So as I say with these concepts of entrepreneurship, I make music and I have a song called Game Plan. It's the
Mm-hmm.
game plans to get into the game. You got to get into the game and you have to go out here and really try to find ways to build yourself up and really kind of grow all of
Yeah.
these particular, opportunities that are out there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And we're on FY Fly, and I can't not ask you our famous final question.
All right.
So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna say two quotes, and I need you to let me know which one is more accurate in your opinion. All right.
Okay.
All right. So the
I'm
first one
ready.
is,
I'm
and
ready.
you're gonna appreciate this one. The first one is more money, more problems. Shout out Biggie Smalls.
Biggie.
And the second one is money can't buy happiness. Which one do you agree with most?
I agree with first, money can't buy happiness.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I say that because, as they say, more money, more problems. Right. So if you're getting the money and creating the problems, which also can have some truth to it,
Yeah.
then you have to find happiness in other ways. So whether I have $200 in the bank or whether I have $2 million in the bank, that can't define whether or not I believe in my ideas or I can grow. Too many people out here like, I got to get funders, I got to get investors.
Mm-hmm.
Everything I've built, I did it with no investments.
Yeah.
I did it with grit, I did it with time, and I did it with making sure that I didn't skip steps. And now everything I've built, I own it all.
Mm-hmm.
Intellectual properties, the relationships, the contact list, all of the things that I use to continue to grow. So as
Mm-hmm.
much as I could build social and be seen, visualized, and I make that look good as I can, it's really about the real work that I actually do to
Yeah.
build the relationship, show up at the conferences, really be in the spaces where the leaders make decisions, and then
Mm-hmm.
share my ideas, stand up and introduce myself, never wasting those moments. So again, happiness has to be with the person. So
Mm-hmm.
whenever you're in any circumstance, no one can ever steal your joy. And when you have that joy, people always see the greatest value in being around good, happy, joyful people in their organizations and in the relationships they want to build and who they want to cut checks to.
Come on, man. Come on,
Let's
man.
go.
Hey,
Let's go.
hey, thank you so much for joining the FY Fly podcast, man. This was amazing. I know my listeners, we talked about a lot of great gems here today, but I promise you, if you can take two or three small habits, two or three small gems that Michael dropped here today, I promise you there will be large results
Yeah,
over time. So again, my man, thank you so
I
much. If you have any
appreciate it.
final words, any final takeaways for our audience, go ahead and also let them know how they can contact you and how they can reach you.
All right. Well, again, Michael Stewart-Isaacs, I am so happy to be here with FY Fly. I'm so proud of this young man's maturation. Hassan, you're amazing. You're doing great things for the community. I love
I
the work you're
appreciate
doing
it,
with
man.
young people. So continue that progression. As far as getting in contact with me, you can find me as Michael Stewart-Isaacs on major platforms. You can also find me under Entrepreneur. You can find that through all my names. Google search me. I put a lot of good things out there. Our website, iambrilliant.org. You'll find more about what we built with the I Am Brilliant movement, all the productions and the different activations that we have on the way. We have our Sunday Stacks podcast.
Yes,
We have the
sir.
Brilliant Bunch where we celebrate our family. We're featured in the New York Times Money edition. So those out there who want to know the real money makers, like I said, we go out here. New York Times spotlighted us during the pandemic and how we were managing our money and still being able to make it. So we give great information and we do that through our Brilliant Bunch platform. We're a blended family. So we talk to that and really speak to how people can continue. It doesn't matter. There's no excuses. There's no divorces. There's no nothing that should stop you from pursuing your dream and what's destined for you. So again, as I always say, I am brilliant. You are too. I'm Michael Stewart-Isaacs, and I look forward to connecting with you all out there in the virtual world.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, man. Thank you so much again. This was amazing. Like I said, your authenticity, your transparency, off the charts, man. Your knowledge, your brilliance,
Man, let's
off the
go.
charts, man.
Let's go. I love people, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And for all of our listeners, y'all already know what time it is. We need y'all to stay safe, stay invested, and stay FYI fly. We'll see y'all next week.
Peace.